For as long as I can remember, I have been able to see people's auras, though I don't know if I consider myself to be psychic. Auras come in all sorts of colors and hues, and when people are excited or really emotional, their auras get bigger and brighter. I can see mine too. It's a nice lime green. There are other people, whom I've spoken to on online forums, who can see auras too. I'm not sure what an aura is exactly. I don't think anyone really knows. But most people think it's a visualization of our soul. I have never really cared much, since it doesn't seem to affect my life. I mostly see it as a fun little quirk, not some sort of power. I work in an office, and last month they hired a new guy. The weird thing is, this new guy, I'll call him Joe, didn't have an aura. Now, I have never ever seen a person without one, and sometimes a person's aura can be faint, but Joe straight up did not have one at all. I couldn't exactly ask him why, as I figured he probably didn't believe in psychic shit, and would think I was crazy. Well, I tried to let it go and not think about it, but I couldn't stop obsessing over it. I caught myself staring at him all the time, trying to make out even a hint of something. There had to be a reason, right? I found myself focusing on him. I would always eat lunch in a spot where I could look at him. Now, here's where it started to get even weirder. Joe never brought lunch. During our break, he would sit in the corner of the room on his phone. He never ate or drank anything, not even water. One day, I couldn't stand it, and I sat by him and offered him half of my sandwich. Joe declined and told me he just wasn't hungry. Well, that didn't make sense to me. I mean, he skipped lunch every single day. Surely he had to be hungry sometimes, right? One day, Joe mentioned a football game coming up that Sunday and asked if I wanted to come over and watch it. I thought this was weird. I barely knew this guy, and he was already inviting me over to his place like we were friends. I tried to think of an excuse at first, but then I figured that maybe, if I went to his place, I could discover a reason as to why he was so weird. So, Sunday came and I went over to Joe's. His house was small but nice, and he came out onto the front porch to greet me. He invited me in, and he seemed very happy. Usually, he didn't talk to anyone at work, but as soon as I went into the house, he started yapping. He asked me how I liked work, what my favorite sport team was, if I had a significant other, and overall, he was being very nice. I shivered a bit, as his house was freezing. He turned on the football game and we watched and made small talk. I can't remember much of what he said, but it was all boring, pointless stuff anyway. Like what he thought of work, and what books he liked to read. The whole time I was trying not to stare at him, at his weird, auraless body. I noticed that Joe was sweating, despite the temperature of the house. About an hour into the game, Joe excused himself to the bathroom. Well, I sat there for about 15 minutes in his cold-ass living room, and he didn't come back. I heard a weird noise come from the hallway, so I got up to check it out. I found the bathroom, and could hear a retching sound coming from inside, like someone was throwing up. I knocked and asked if everything was alright, and Joe coughed a bit and said he was fine. I figured he must have gotten food poisoning or something. I hurried back into the living room, and I wasn't sure what to do. I was getting uncomfortable. Joe was really friendly, but there was something off about him. Maybe I am more psychic than I previously thought. Maybe I had some sort of strange intuition, because I felt like something wasn't right. After another 10 minutes, my throat started to get dry. I went into the kitchen, grabbed a cup from the cabinet, and put it under the water dispenser in the fridge. Well, nothing came out. I tried getting ice and still nothing. So I opened the fridge. There was nothing in it. And it wasn't even on. Just a dark fridge of empty shelves. Curious and weirded out, I looked in the other cabinets and the pantry. All empty. I heard the bathroom door open, so I quickly went back to the couch. Joe was more sweaty than before, and his face was red, so I figured he had to have been vomiting. I asked him if he was alright, but he said it was nothing. We continued to watch the football game until it ended. I was about to get my ass out of there, but Joe said he wanted to show me something. I told him I really had to be going, but he insisted. So, I followed Joe down into the basement, which was way colder than the upstairs. It was really dark. Only a single light bulb hung from the ceiling. People's auras shine in the dark, so it was weird seeing him shrouded in darkness. My own aura was shining very bright because I was so nervous. We reached the bottom of the stairs, and I saw that on the concrete floor there was a circle drawn in what looked like white chalk. Around the perimeter of the circle were symbols and words in a language I didn't recognize. I looked around the room and noticed that there were unlit candles all lined up against the walls. Dozens and dozens of them. I asked Joe, "The hell is all this?" He just laughed and told me that I'd see. I really wanted to get the fuck out of there. I felt like I was going to get murdered. "Go stand in the center," Joe told me and laughed, pointing to the circle. I went silent for a moment before laughing nervously. I said, "You're fucking with me, right?" And Joe shook his head. He told me again to go stand in the circle, and said that it would help him out. My aura was pulsing at this point. I was afraid to say no. What if he had a weapon hidden? What if he planned to hurt me if I didn't do as he said? So, I walked over to the circle and stood in the center. I know I'm stupid, and what I did was really, really fucking dumb. My memory isn't the best, but I remember everything Joe said after that. You're promised money and power, but at a price. I didn't know what it would be like. I can't eat. I'm always sick. I'm always burning up. You're promised women, but I can't feel. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I'm sorry. I was going to ask what the fuck Joe was talking about, but my mouth wouldn't open. I tried walking forward, but my legs wouldn't move. I tried raising my arms, but they too were stuck in place. It was like I was frozen, like a statue. The room brightened up as all the candles in the room lit themselves. Joe coughed, and I swear I saw blood on his hand. He said something quietly, words I didn't understand, before turning away from me. He kept saying he was sorry, over and over as he walked back upstairs. I think I had tears in my eyes at that point. The following hours seemed like a dream. The chalk symbols on the floor seemed to move around and change shape. I heard a loud droning, a completely alien sound. You know how, even if you can't see, you can tell if there's something behind you? I felt that. Felt a presence standing behind me. I felt hands on my shoulders, sharp claws digging into my skin. My head pounded, and the room was spinning. I felt like I was going to be sick. I felt an immense pressure, like I was a mile underwater. I tried to scream, tried to yell for help, tried to beg for my life, but my mouth remained shut. I closed my eyes, waiting for the worst, and opened them again when the light bulb exploded. The candles all went out, and I was in the dark. Suddenly, I could move again. I ran upstairs and Joe was nowhere to be seen. I didn't wait around for him though, and got the fuck out of there. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I went to work the next day. Joe had an aura, bright and green. He seemed much happier. He mingled with our co-workers and brought food during lunch. He avoided me though, and I avoided him. Ever since the incident at his house, I have felt like total shit. I feel parched. The cool autumn air feels like 110 degrees, and I'm starving because everything I eat tastes like dirt. I have a doctor's appointment scheduled, but I can't bring up the worst of my concerns. My aura is gone.